Welcome back everybody. I know it's been a while, but I recently got this new gun. It's the GM10 Karbin by GARE Guns India. It's my first gun by this company, and I thought I'd make a quick review video, let you guys know some things that I like, some that I dislike, a few features, upgrades that I might do, and just general thoughts and impressions. I also did a power test, a sound test, and a pellet test. So yeah, without much ado, let's just get into it. So beginning with the initial setup, loading air and pellets. They have this really cool nifty spring cap, which you pull back to reveal the fill port, and you proceed to fill it up like any other PCP with your hand pump or with your electric pump. I don't have one yet, but I might be getting one. As you can see, filled up to 200 bars. The max fill pressure is the same on this as well as the Precihole Px100. After this, you can uncock. Makes a very satisfying click. Everything feels very high quality about this gun. That's the first thing I can say. And we will be loading using the Precihole field targets. After loading, you can simply replace the magazine in the gun as shown here. But one issue that I found that you instantly notice is that the magazine quality is quite low. It's very difficult to get the cocking lever back in sometimes due to the magazine catching. There's still some burrs from production. Now we go on to pellet testing. So we're going to test all of these different brands of pellets to find the one with the best grouping. All tests will be done at 20 yards with full pressure, 5 shots per pellet group, and we will be disregarding flyers if there are any. So again, 5 shots at 200 bars at 20 meters range. So the gun was filled up after before each of these 5 shots for each different pellet type. And the results are in. So let's take a look. Premier hollow point came in at a pretty decent grouping actually. If we disregard the second flyer, that's well within 12 mil. But as it stands right now, it's about 14 mil or 13.9 on the major grouping, which is decent at 20 yards or meters. Next we have the RWS Super Fields. I really like these pellets. They're a personal favorite of mine. If like individually testing the pellets, you can see they're very, very well formed. There's no flashing, no burrs, and that shows in the results as well. Again, 2 groupings. I don't know what happened on this day. I might have had some kind of crosswind, but I have the first group is again well within 10 millimeters, and the second one is off again. Third pellet was the Gamo Hunters. Not a big fan of these pellets, as seen in the results as well. Just for none of the guns that I've tested have they worked very well. And here in the results we have a group of about 25 mil. Nothing to write home about, so I won't be using these pellets. Next up are the JSBs, a fan favorite, but in my experience they don't perform too well. Not with the Precihole and not with the GARE. About a 12 mil grouping between the 2 major groups. You can see flashings, not the best. Moving on, we have the Gamo Pro Magnums. Again, another Gamo pellet and a similar result. I don't even know if I have to measure this, but I will. About, again, 25 mil CTC of the 2 groups, or 3 groups rather in this case. Next up, we have the slugs, the H&N slug hollow points. Good reviews online, but in my experience, not good. Only 3 of them hit the target. I can't accept this. So they're gone. And the next slugs were the Zoair slugs. Also good reviews relatively, but with this gun they just don't work. Only 1 hit the target at 20 yards, and yeah. These are actually the pellets that they recommended to me. This again, heavy pellets, 10.35 grains by G. Smith & Co. And these gave us quite good results in the first try, with a minor grouping of about 10 mil, and then 2 flyers again, which we can disregard. But what happens in a bit now is I have another test with the same pellets right here, and these are a bit worse. I mean, not sure what happened here exactly. This is after zeroing, so it should still have a decent grouping, more towards the center, but it doesn't look too good. Lastly, we have the Preciholes. I was always impressed with these in the past, But again, the first test here does not look too good, with about 20 mil between the two groups. And again, 3 major groups. Very, very funny what was happening on this day. But here's another test with Precihole after zeroing, and then we have about 8 mil between the two groups. So that's very acceptable. So as it stands, Precihole or the Precipel field target pellets remain my pellet of choice for both the guns, for the GARE and the Precihole as well. Now let's move on to the power test. It's a very quick power test between the two guns. What I used here were equally cut sections of 2mm aluminium tubing. Yeah, I shot at these at again 20 yards of range using both the guns. First with the GARE, and then shooting at the same targets from the other side with the Precihole, so I could directly compare the impact. The tests were all done at 200 bars of pressure for both guns, 3 shots each. And these are the results. So I marked the side, and it is relatively clear in most cases which one is the Precihole and which one is the GARE. The GARE being the stronger of the two, as shown here. So you can slightly see the deeper indentation, signaling more energy carried through the pellet into the block by the carbon in each of these 3 blocks that we shot against. Here's another comparison coming up. Again, the carbon has a slightly deeper dent, not much, but it is noticeable. And shooting from a close range, like very close, the carbon does go through. It actually punctures one side of the 2mm block, while the Precihole does not. These results are further backed up through the test with the Crony chronograph app, which I did here at about 40 yards distance because I was getting mixed results before. And these are the results. So the carbon comes out at 803 feet per second, while the Precihole is a bit lower at 750 and 10.8 foot-pounds against the carbon's 12.5 foot-pounds, which is actually according to spec. So I'm very happy with that. That being said, keep in mind that is a very new gun. I just tested the carbon, and the Precihole has been with me since 2017. I've had to do a seal replacement on the Precihole, and there have been a few issues which were all very easy to fix. Thank God. But yeah, the carbon is more powerful than the Precihole, and both tests were completed with 8 shots, same distance, everything the same. So I am quite happy with these results. Now, moving on with the sound test, I'll just let this play. So the GARE is suppressed, of course, and here's the comparison to the Precihole, which isn't. Now getting to my final thoughts. Overall, I'm very happy with the gun. It has great build quality. I really like the fact that the stock is made of wood and not polymer. The charging handle, the cocking handle rather, is great. I really like the new design. Very ergonomic to use, and you can really feel the O-ring seal when you close it, when you snap it shut. So the laser markings are also not a problem at all. But what I do not like at all is the Picatinny rail, the 22mm Weaver rail. Yeah, it was a big issue for me to actually find scope mounts in India for the 1-inch scope that I have, and I think many customers would have issues with that as well. But yeah, otherwise it's great. The trigger is quite flimsy, I must say. It's simply an extension on the existing GM10 platform, so it's just like it's a bullpup modification rather than like a standalone bullpup design, like the new Precihole. The fill port is not as easy to read, but it's sufficient, and the dust cover snap ring is great. That really feels very solid. The suppressor can be unscrewed. I checked the threads on mine; they're a bit wonky, but nothing to complain about. I mean, it shoots straight, it shoots well, and the suppressor really does its job, as you guys heard. So nothing to complain about. The paint job is fantastic as well. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to complain about here. And yeah, overall I'm very happy with it. Now, one more thing that I would like to bring up is the location of the charging handle. On the new Precihole bullpup, they did it better in my opinion, and they put it all the way up front, where when you're leaning on it with your cheek, you have to just reach up your trigger hand to charge it, to cock the gun, whereas here it's just all the way on the back, so you have to always unshoulder the gun in order to recharge or to reload. But otherwise, I have no big complaints. I mean, they did say it's built up on their existing platform, so things like this are to be expected. Now, just a quick comparison again between the Precihole and the GARE. So when you're charging the Precihole, there's actually a little bit of the pellet push rod that remains outside, which does a good job in keeping the magazine back. It prevents it from falling out. It's a bit more cumbersome when loading, but loading is not as crunchy. The magazine is a lot better, and the magazine doesn't fall out while reloading. And that was not the case with the GARE, at least with my model. I'm not sure if that was just a one-time thing, but otherwise they are very on par quality-wise. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please look at the description of the video for a more detailed explanation of some of my points. And if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I will do my best to answer all of the comments. Otherwise, have a nice day and see you in the next one.